In a world that often feels like rushed and impersonal, small acts of kindness can create waves of positive change, both in our personal lives and in the workplace. And today we're diving into the topic of the ripple effects of kindness, changing lives and business cultures. And we'll explore how something as simple as writing notes of encouragement or affirmations can uplift our mental well-being, strengthen relationships, and foster really a culture of positivity. And whether it's just a thoughtful word to a colleague or a heartfelt message to someone we care about, these small gestures, they have the power to inspire, connect, encourage, and transform. So in this episode, Greg and I together, my husband, we are on together once a month. We give some examples and some ideas of how we can all use kindness as a catalyst for meaningful change in both life and business. So stay tuned. This podcast is brought to you by DJ Works Media and HalftimeSuccess.com, offering resources and insights for those at mid-career or the halftime of life. Explore our diverse categories, including courses, coaching, health, music, software, and travel. We're here to help you make this stage of life your best ever. So get our new articles, downloads, and podcasts by signing up for weekly updates at goalsforyourlife.com/newsletter. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Well, hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me today.
You're welcome. Good to see everybody.
It's such a great subject to share on the topic of the effect of kindness and how that can have far-reaching results. And sometimes we don't even realize how far. So we're going to touch on a couple areas of, the domino effect, on how they affect, it can multiply, and how it's also like a leadership tool and a legacy tool, a bit of that. So let's just kind of start out a little bit with maybe a few illustrations on the domino effect. And you have a couple too. You had read some things online, and so what? And maybe in your life, what has some of those things that?
I think what we're really talking about, the effect is that when you introduce kindness into cultures that have been primarily focused on production, effectiveness, some of those things. Mm-hmm. You can change the tone of your culture and make it much more enjoyable for humans to be a part of and to participate in. Mm-hmm. And I know I've got a friend that manages CEO groups, and men and women get together as CEOs once a month and share, struggles that they're having at work. And one of the ones was this guy had an employee that his human resource person wanted to let go. And from everything he could tell, this person was like an A+ employee. And he had tried to live a life and create a culture of kindness. And at first, he let the human resource person do what she felt was the best thing to do. And then on the way out the door, the other person kind of wrote a letter and asked to see him kind of in an exit interview. And a lot of what was going on had to do with the human resource person. And so he, confirmed this with other employees. And what was interesting is because he had had a culture of kindness, he ended up letting the human resource person go. But the person she had let go, the A+ performer, was more than happy to come back. because she enjoyed the culture at that company so much.
Mm.
So, you can, in this case, the fruit was loyalty. The fruit was contentment. And, it's just one of many examples we'll probably talk about.
Right. And sometimes it feels one-sided, when you're reaching out with kindness and you feel all you get on the other side is either nothing or just kind of sloughing it off.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't, it's hard.
So it kind of needs to be a value you embrace regardless.
It really is. Yes.
Everybody around you, because it's not reciprocal always.
No, it's really not. And sometimes you don't even realize the effect of being kind.
But if you're kind over the long haul, if people leave, they'll miss it.
Yes, there is just something about that. It does with that special culture and being, just being nice to be around. And so, yeah, definitely they would.
Yeah, we would probably agree that when we experience kindness in the marketplace, it's memorable.
Yes. And clear back, I'm going to kind of go back in my history a little bit. Okay. Because I was kind of pushed into teaching. I was performing, of course, at the same time, but you either go one way, either a performance or in education. A lot of times when you're pursuing more of an education, they're going to put you in, push you into teaching. So instead of taking on another tour, I was working with a master teacher, doing my student teaching at the very end of my bachelor's degree. And one thing that this master teacher told me is to create a folder of the positive messages I get. And this is applicable for any business. And she said, you are going to be slammed so many times. You need to have a folder of positive messages. And before doing this episode,
do you still have that folder?
I still have that folder.
Oh, wonderful.
And actually, I have several folders. I'm trying to purge some of my files right now. It's like, okay, I've got stuff everywhere. Some people are like super, super organized. I just keep adding, but I do. And I have some of these original notes. And I found one that I'm going to read today. But it was so wonderful to have that. I still remember that advice. I'm thinking, why, these little notes. But I tell you, there's oftentimes you get slammed. It doesn't matter what business you're in, no matter what field you're in. And I've even kept the notes from concert venues when I get unexpected. I've not asked for reviews. I get these unexpected, that song you sang was just, or what you did to relate to me. It was so special. There was one, like a service, a celebration of life service, because I've done so many different events. And the music wasn't available, this one special song. So I said, okay, I'll transcribe it. I did the song and I had heard of the song, which was fortunate, but I still had to transcribe it and do everything. I did this song. I got a very unexpected note afterwards of just saying, thank you so much for taking that set. That was the most special because it meant so much to this person that had passed. And to me, that even though for this particular, it wasn't like my attitude was great because I was like driving everywhere. I was doing this extra work, but that message of kindness was, I'm glad I did it.
And you can go back to it the next time you do a memorial service.
Yes.
And remind yourself, I may not get a note, but, people are being touched.
They are being touched. And so I think I can encourage everyone on this to keep it, start a file.
Well, and in your case, you're doing the memorial service one time.
Yes.
If you show up every day like that.
Right. Right. Yeah.
You can change the whole vibe.
Yes.
There's this wonderful story that's gone around. A guy was flying back to home on Christmas Eve from a business trip, and he stopped at a Starbucks at the airport to get whatever his favorite Christmas latte was. And so he steps up to the counter, and the barista is a young lady, and she says, "How can I serve you this Christmas Eve?" And he goes, "Well," and then he tells her the drink, and she says, "And who may I ask am I making this for?" And he gives her her name, and she says, "Well," and let's say his name's Kevin. "Well, Kevin, this is going to be just for you." And she goes about her business, and she asks him a few more questions along the way, and like, "Why are you flying home on this wintry day?" And he goes, "Well, it's last minute to get home to see my family." "How excited are you to see your family?" "I am really excited to see my family." "Are you going to be home for the entire holiday?" "Yes. And this is the last trip I'll be taking for a while." And she goes, "That is great. I bet they're so excited to see you." And about this time, she finishes making his special Christmas drink. And he pays her and thanks her, and she wishes him a Merry Christmas, and he says Merry Christmas back. And he starts walking to his terminal, and he realizes he's got a little bit of time, and he starts thinking, yeah, that was a really unique experience. I mean, on Christmas Eve, how does that girl have enough energy to be that excited? She's having to work Christmas Eve at a Starbucks. And so the thought hits him to go back to the Starbucks. And when she finishes with a customer, she goes, "Kevin, you're back so soon." And she goes, "How can I help you?" And he goes, "I have just got to ask, what is your secret?" And she goes, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "Here you are working Christmas Eve, and you've got the spirit of giving all over you." And she goes, "Well, thank you." And he goes, "How do you get so much joy out of serving coffee?" And she looks at him and she goes, "Well, Kevin, it's because I don't believe I'm serving coffee. I believe I'm serving a cup of happiness." And the point is she had adopted a mindset of kindness.
Mm-hmm. It's a great story.
And the guy who told the story goes, "You can't always choose what day you work. You can't always choose your hours, but you can choose how you show up."
Yep.
Take that home with you. You can choose how you show up. And when you show up ready to exude kindness, when you could be grumpy,
yes,
you over time and probably pretty quickly change the culture that you work in. Yeah. And you can you imagine all of us getting a chance to work with this gal? And if she was the human resource person, the company would be a whole lot different.
It really would. And it really starts with us.
Yes,
I mean,
absolutely.
It's a Zig Ziglar.
Well, I mean, that was her. I mean, she just decided to choose how she showed up.
Yeah, because she had to work. She wasn't with her family. Yeah.
She had all the reasons in the world to be grumpy.
Yeah, to be grumpy.
And you brought up Zig Ziglar, who, it was always famous for saying, you can get anything you want in life if you figure out how to help other people get what they want.
Right. And sometimes you don't even realize you're helping them. So,
well, yeah, but I think adopting the mindset that you're going to be other centered.
Yes.
As opposed to, we've all experienced a salesperson who treats you like a commodity and just wants to skin as much off of you as they possibly can.
Definitely.
And what we're talking about here is the exact opposite.
Right.
And what Debbie wants to point out is that typically reverberates down the chain. It's a little bit like paying it forward.
Right. And with the outcomes, I'm going to read a little bit of a letter that was sent to me. Again, from another student. This was in my second semester of student teaching. This was so many years ago. And this particular student seemed to be kind of troubled. So I was just nice to her, but she was really okay. I was just being nice. So, and apparently she had asked me enough questions because I was driving home weekends from my college to teach piano. That's how I put myself through school. I had a ton of students, and I was, I did this for years since I was very young. I've done that. It paid me through college. So, but she knew I went there. For some reason, she had some phone number that she could call my parents' home. Back then, of course, I'm going to date myself. There were no cell phones. So, yes, so I get this call, and it's from this student, and it said, "Can you come and pick me up?" And okay, so my college was a good hour, a little more than an hour away from my home.
Right.
Can you come and pick me up? Well, no, I can't. Well, no, but I'm here in Long Beach. I said, what? What? Yeah, I'm here at the bus station. Oh, and back then, when you went through teacher training, they have nothing like they do today. If all of a sudden you have a student call you from a bus station, you immediately call child services. You have all of these, everything. We had nothing, none of this. So it's like, what? It's nighttime. She said, "Can you come and pick me up?" Oh my gosh, what do I do? I don't even think my parents were. What do I do? Of course, I wasn't going to leave her downtown in a bus station. And I said, "Okay, I'll come and get you." And my parents had really instilled. We'd had people stay at our house before, but they were always somebody either from, our church or someone, and kind of, a place that people, felt comfortable.
Yeah. So this feels a little bit like the Good Samaritan story.
Oh my gosh. It was, but I didn't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't know what to do. So I ended up getting her and putting her up for the night, getting her back. Okay, you need to go back. You need to go back. So we did this. But there was consistent contact. In fact, if this gal called today, I could probably still recognize her voice because I was distinctive. But years later, I got this.
Oh,
I got this.
You saved the letter.
So I'm not.
Show them the handwriting.
The handwriting of the letter. And I was just amazed. Okay, this was after another conversation. Somehow some reason she gets my information.
It was kind of a long letter.
I'm only going to read part of it.
Okay.
It was great talking to you again after so many years. But you want to know, but I want you to know something. That phone should have been turned off. You touched my heart so much when I first met you, especially when I got off that bus and you came to my rescue. And even though we haven't kept in touch through all of these years, you have been a big part of my life. The way you touched my heart and made me feel like I was special. The special words of encouragement back then made me feel loved at a time I needed it most. You opened your heart and gave me so much unconditionally at a time when I wanted to give up on love because all of the abuse and hurt I was going through. I didn't know all of she was going through. And you showed and touched me so deeply through your friendship and music, not to give up on love.
No.
That is a note from a student. And I looked to see where it was from. And she is with a nonprofit organization helping God's children.
Oh.
And you don't know.
It's got
you
reciprocal
just
effects.
Don't know.
That's wonderful.
And there is just when I reread that, it brings tears to my eyes thinking, my attitude wasn't always perfect. I have to admit.
But you've got a number of other letters.
I have a number of other letters. I have students who have called me when they've been on a bridge. Yes. And it's like, why? I don't know why I get some of those calls, but it's a privilege.
Well, probably.
Yes.
One, they know you'll be kind too, because God puts them in your path.
Yes. It's just that, but it's applicable everywhere. It's applicable with groups that we are in, with our companies. And you don't have to be, just overly syrup. No. I think a lot of kindness is being willing to listen. And when I read,
which is another thing that's not reciprocal.
Oh, yes, that's true.
If you're a good listener, that doesn't mean people are going to listen to you.
Right. It's just that willingness, because sometimes it's hard.
Yes.
To just be able to do that, to kind of zip it up and ask people about them and what they are doing. But it makes them feel special. It makes them feel important when you remember little details about them. And it's an attitude of kindness.
Right.
And when your illustration about even the HR illustration of just, that's a great illustration with that of how, the effect of that came back around. It's one of my favorite little phrases. It always comes back around, to you, and major on the major. That's another one of mine. But it really does.
Yep.
It creates that culture and all of that. And so, and I know there's other little illustrations that I have kept, little books through the years. I was a music director for 4 years, and gave people a chance to be on the teams. And we had moved. That's why I ended up letting that sit, because it was a really fun position. But the team gave me a book of just kind affirmation and letters. And so I keep those, because we just go through life many times just getting beat up.
Yeah. It's interesting that life tends to either beat us up, or the marketplace kind of takes away our value.
Yeah.
And kindness a lot of times is figuring out how to restore a little bit of value to the people around us.
Right.
Sometimes that can be just in listening.
Right.
So other times it's affirmation.
Right.
They had a good thought.
Right.
That was a really good thought. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah.
That's a kind thing, and it transfers value back.
Right.
Because the whole world wants to suck value from you.
Really does. It wants to take away your joy. It wants to take away your ability to give, all of that.
Right.
And also there's just it attracts other people. There's just just that culture. I think it attracts other people who are of the same mindset many times, of just the being kind and listening. So if you're looking for friends, if you're looking for groups to hang around with, and looking for those character qualities, I talk a lot about core values and how important, character is, and kindness is part of a good character. And we can help to change others. But boy, that's hard sometimes, isn't it? It's just really difficult. Anyway, there was another illustration that you gave. I think this was a post that you read on Facebook or on one of those social medias. Really impactful. And it reminded me of another illustration I had too. But why don't you share that one just a little bit? It was wonderful with the...
Well, I think like a junior high school teacher, how junior hires are. They're always picking at each other, and they all are suffering from low self-esteem. So she had the class clear the desk, get out a piece of paper, and they were to write down something that they admire about all the other students in the class. So, you wrote down their name, something they admired. And, let's say there's 28 people. So you got 28 comments on what people admired about you. And she had them handed in. And then over the weekend, she transcribed all of this. So, if Debbie was in the class, she got a sheet of paper with 28 affirmations, and I would have gotten the same thing. Everybody in class got one. And remember, this is 7th through 8th grade. Well, fast forward, they were 13 or 14. Fast forward 10, 14 years, and one of the young men in that class had been fighting, I think, in Iraq, and had been killed. And the teacher got invited to the memorial service, and she thought that was kind of sweet and a little bit odd, but so she went, and when she got there, after the service, they were doing all the thanks and the giving of condolences, and the parents, when she introduced herself, said, "Oh, we have something to show you," and she was really surprised. And she takes out this crinkled little piece of paper that had been, worn through the years, and unfolded it and showed it to her. And it was the 28 affirmations. And this young man had died with those affirmations in his wallet because they meant so much to him. And after she did that, there was a small crowd of students, 3 or 4 that had been in that class, and all 4 of them, dug in their purse or dug in their wallets, and they were still carrying those. Wow. And it's just such a tearful reminder of, how much we value and maybe miss that little small act of kindness. And it's just an incredible, memory, even for me to just remind myself to affirm others.
That is so great. And I actually have an illustration of someone who affirmed me that meant so much to me about when I was going into the kids' grade levels and working with them with music. For all of you,
volunteer.
Yes, for all of you who are faithful volunteers of like some of the parent groups like PTA, that was just not for me. So, but I knew I could work with their whole grade level in music. So that's what I did while our kids went through. And one of these students who had gone through then was in high school. There was an accident and he was killed. And I wanted to go to the memorial service. It was packed. And afterwards, the mother came up to me. She did not have to do this, but I wrote about it in one of my books because it was so impactful for me. It was such an act of kindness on her part. She came up to me and she said, I know you taught my son. I did a whole little program with them. And she said, I was looking through all of his things in the things that he kept underneath the bed. And he kept the words to wind beneath my wings that you sang.
Oh,
I mean, for me, that was so special that she shared that with me. And it made all that work. So worth it. And it was I've never forgotten that. She didn't have to tell me that.
Right.
I would have never known that.
Yeah, you could have gone to heaven and the first person that tells you is God.
Yeah, I would have never known that. But that I have cherished in my heart. And I think some of these things, working with these, the kids, they were elementary age at that point. You talk about, they
were like 5th or 6th graders.
Very active. I was working with 150 of them at a time. And there was a lot in that room. But they did.
But if you touched one little boy, you probably touched dozens.
A lot. And a lot of those kids kept on. And it was a positive thing, creating that positive atmosphere. But for that mom to take time out of that day it was packed. She singled me out with that message of kindness. And sometimes it takes singling out somebody to make sure you don't miss those spots. Don't miss those chances. Because that meant so much to me that she would take the time to tell me that. And then I contacted her afterwards and asked if I could use the story. And she said, well, yes. And then, I ended up being able to tell that a little bit in the book because it just meant so much on paying it forward. And we don't know sometimes the effect because I wanted to do music that would have a positive effect. And that was kind of one of the climaxes of that. I arranged the pieces so they could all sing and all of that. So yeah. So that meant a lot to me at that point. And so, and it's an encouragement, when I look back on those things, it's an encouragement to not give up on kindness. Because sometimes you feel like there's no reciprocity.
Right.
You just feel like, why? When you feel like that sometimes. I mean, it could be a coworker.
And again, it goes back to you decide to choose kindness because it's a core value. Not because you think you're going to get something back.
Right.
If you think you're going to get something back, you're just manipulating like everybody else in the world.
Right. So, and I have to remember that it's with people I work with. I mean, sometimes it's with a family member. It's with, who knows, with coworkers, just people, treating people with respect and with kindness. And it's a choice, just like the coffee. If I was working, Christmas or Christmas Eve or whatever, and,
right.
Not able to be around, that's an attitude check. Definitely. Right. So let's kind of sum this up. Did you have anything else to kind of sum this up on your end?
Well, I think we kind of did that kindness is a value that you choose to have, that if you choose to have it, it'll impact your culture around you. And most of the time it won't be reciprocal, but you'll end up touching a lot of people in silence.
Yes. A lot of people in silence is really interesting about that one too, because we don't know the results many times. And so, not to give up on it and not to, just discount it because you don't see any effect. It's like, I've been working at this for years and but it's a heartfelt attitude. And I love that Zig Ziglar again, just to be able to, that reciprocity. Is that the right
reciprocity?
That's a tough one to say always. So, well, thank you all for joining us. Make sure that you there's an article that will come with this, and I give a lot of extra resources and things to read and to pursue. And so you can look those up, goalsforyourlife.com/newsletter. And also our Halftime Success. We have a lot of resources on there that are trusted resources that I've used either for years or some of our podcast guests as well. We have a lot of wonderful episodes. This is coming out at the beginning of the year. And so, anyway, thank you for joining us. And Greg and I are on together once a month. So next month, we'll see you together again. And
good. See you next month. And I hope your year's starting out great.
Wonderful. Okay. So bye-bye for now. Bye. Thank you for joining us. It is because of our wonderful listeners like you that we keep going strong week after week. We'd love it if you'd share and follow us to not miss a single show and even write a review. You can also find all of our articles, products, and links at womenathalftime.com.